What's going on, everybody? Here today with another Bodhi Tree mental health video. On this channel I talk about my own journey through mental illness, specifically obsessive compulsive disorder and severe anxiety. I wanted to do today's video on pretty much the basis of this entire channel, and really pretty much the backbone of pretty much the main line of the main approach that I have taken in regards to improving my mental health and recovering from obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, depression, just all of my mental health problems. And that is mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is something that, if you're watching this channel, you've probably heard about before, and it's become kind of a buzzword, and oftentimes it's presented in an oversimplified manner, so it's kind of gets dumbed down to thoughts, and also sometimes it gets a lot of times you see it gets kind of put into the self-help sector, where it's like where you have gurus and people talk about, well, live in the now and be present and achieve all your dreams, and if you can be present, then your wildest dreams will come true, and it becomes almost like a way to achieve success in a materialistic world, in a kind of Western worldview, like the worldview of life is about achievement and success and materialism, and all of these arbitrary things is what success is. So it gets latched onto that, which is really bizarre. So you see it oversimplified, you see it over exaggerated, and most of all, you just see a lot of people trying to make money off talking about mindfulness, talking about what it can do for you. I all the time, especially on social media, it's just put in everywhere, pretty much as a buzzword, in a way for people to market something that anybody can have access to in any moment. So what is mindfulness? How do we use it? How do we apply it? And what is really the goal? What is the goal in the practice? So simply put, mindfulness, when it means to be mindful, when someone says, hey, be mindful of the time, or be mindful of what you say around so and so, or be mindful of what you're doing here, people don't use the word mindful that much in today's language scheme. But when someone would say that, it would be, you could replace mindfulness with just awareness. Hey, be aware of what's going on around you, be aware of the time, be aware of what you're saying. And mindfulness practice is pretty much just that. It's just awareness training. It's just the ability to be in the here and now, to be in the present moment in a non-judgmental way. It's the ability to just be here and now in a non-judgmental way. To just be. It's just literally the practice of being yourself, whether that's in a formal meditation practice, or what I will talk about next, which is bringing it into your everyday life. So a lot of times when people talk about meditation, people feel like you need to get a cushion, and people need to feel like you need to light some candles, you have your little Buddha statue there, and that sitting there. I once talked to a therapist who went all the way to India, and he had done all this work with the monks and this or that, and he said he meditated first thing in the morning and in the evening, but he was really shocked when I told him I was practicing all day, and I just once again, I think with meditation, it's the meditation practice of just sitting and being is a good place to start for some people, but it's one of those things that once again becomes kind of a cliche, it becomes like, oh, my time for my meditation practice, I need to sit here and be all zen-like, and this is what it's all about. It's all about being, and it's all about being like Buddha, or being, this is it. It becomes more attached to the ego, more ego about me being spiritual, and me being, me having this practice, rather than what the real intention is really to get past that. And you see that a lot in Zen Buddhism, which kind of is kind of just that. Zen Buddhism is just kind of Buddhism stripped down to insights of meditation and mindful living. So, although meditation can be a good place for certain people to start, I don't necessarily recommend that for most people. I usually recommend, I recommend meditation, formal practice, if you're having a difficult time. If the other suggestions, which is, I like to say, bringing it into your everyday life. Anything can be a mindfulness practice. Your whole life can be a mindfulness practice. The practice of being aware in the here and now is something that you start off like stringing, moments together, but then you want to string more and more and more moments together until it kind of becomes, the way that you are. And that is the goal in mindfulness practice. The practice of being mindful, the ultimate goal, and what someone would consider someone who is enlightened, means to be completely in the present moment, no longer lost in thought, no longer swayed by their thoughts, feelings, or emotions. They have a clear, empty mind, and they are calm and in the center of their own experience. So they're not, being pushed by their anxieties, pushed and pulled by their desires. They're just here. They're just being. They're there. They're like a dog, like a cow, like a bird. They're like any other creature here. They're just here. That's it. For no reason, just here. That's it. You've given up all their desires, all their anxieties, all their drama, all their trauma. They've got rid of all that. Their mind is empty and they're here. And how you get to that is through practicing mindfulness throughout the day. So some ways that I talk to people about, practicing mindfulness is something like, hey, when you take a shower in the morning, learn to, go into the shower and just be aware of taking the shower. Notice how difficult it is for you to just take the shower. Notice what you're thinking about. Hey, you're thinking about what you have to do today. I mean, this goes for people with anxiety and just people in general. Think about, what you have to do, or you think about what you have to do today, or the vacation you're planning for. Are you trying to sort out, the next apartment you're going to get? Are you going over a relationship or a conversation that you had yesterday, or the conversation that you're going to have at work? Just begin to notice how difficult it is just to take the shower, just to feel the water, just to feel the soap, just to feel, just to be aware of you bathing yourself and touching yourself and washing yourself. That's a great 5 to 10 or however long your shower is mindfulness practice. And it's not something that you have to go get all, you have to get all, sit down on a cushion and get all into this egotistical, meditation practice. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Nothing wrong with doing that. The problem is when people, oftentimes when people are performing these formal meditation practices, it's an ego-driven thing. The practice is driven to feel a sense of spirituality and feel a sense of they're looking for something. But if you're just taking a shower, you're just trying to be aware of taking a shower. That's something that doesn't seem too spiritual, does it? But it's the same. The concept touches home even more for people because it's just taking the shower, and then you can expand it into just eating your meal mindfully. Just being aware of you feeding yourself, of you preparing the food, going on walks and just being mindful of what's going on around you as you're walking, just practicing being present. Now, for someone that has anxiety, depression, or someone that is just, lost in their thoughts most of the time, it can be kind of difficult to practice this because you have to first experience what it's like to be present. Once you experience what it's like to be present, you know what I mean? Then you now understand when you're lost in thought and when you're present. And then it's just a practice of being present. So it's kind of, a lot of times when I talk to people about mindfulness, the hardest thing for me to get them to understand is what I'm actually talking about, because it seems so, the way that most people kind of are is they're kind of wound up in their heads, and they're kind of, so it's difficult for them to pause long enough, to stop the dialogue in their mind long enough to see what it's like to not be having that conversation in their head when they're not distracted by something else. You know what I mean? But so just practicing, being aware of your thoughts. Now, there's a philosophy out here in OCD recovery and in the mental health recovery that is basically a philosophical fill-in for mindfulness practice, and that is called acceptance. Acceptance is where you are accepting your experience non-judgmentally, and this is kind of in the OCD community, this attitude of acceptance is another way to approach mindfulness practice. So you could call this mindfulness practice, in traditionally, this would be called mindfulness practice, but some people have figured out that it's actually easy to just talk about practice of acceptance, because it's very much the same thing. The practice of being is the practice of accepting your thoughts and feelings. But sometimes looking at it from acceptance, accepting life and accepting your thoughts and feelings actually kind of makes more sense for people. And so the idea of, hey, I'm going to accept whatever happens, no matter what happens. Like, I'm done fighting with everything. It's just everything is whatever. And you're developing an attitude of acceptance, an attitude of acceptance, an attitude of, when these thoughts are popping into your head, that, you're practicing accepting whatever. Like, everything is whatever. Like, I'm gonna die, whatever. Did I kill this person, whatever. I feel like killing myself right now, whatever. I just cussed this person out, whatever. I just had a nice conversation with this person, whatever. Like, you're just accepting everybody else, you're accepting yourself, you're accepting how you feel. Like, you're just accepting reality as things are. And this is a reactive acceptance. It's to the point to where you accept anything. You're surrendering. And in philosophical terms, and I've done a video on this, I may have took it down. There was a philosophical article that about this practice of being present that was really good, and it talked about the 4 doors of the present moment, and one of them was acceptance. Accepting things the way they are. Another one was self-realization, which is kind of that moment when you realize you're having that conversation in your head and all of this going on in your head is just bullshit. That's a self-realization. The surrender, the door of surrender, which is, you're giving up in life. You really are. You're giving the fuck up, So someone who is enlightened is someone who's given up. They've given up the chase. They've given up the fight. They've accepted reality. They've realized the nature of their own mind and the nature of reality. And then there's the direct door, which would be something like picking an object and just focusing on that object. So that would just be, direct mindfulness practice in like, kind of like in a formal meditation practice. But it's, so mindfulness practice, to kind of sum it up, mindfulness practice is the ability to be in the here and now, to be present of what's going on around you in the here and now. The goal of mindfulness practice is to go from the one moment that you can be mindful and then practice it to where you're stringing more moments along, and to develop the practice and the understanding of how your mind works enough to go through a longer period of time, and then translate it into your life, which is now you're going to live mindfully. And then once you kind of get to that stage, all right, then it's just a matter of, there's a book that I read called Journey into Now, which is by Leonard Jacobson. And at that point, it's just a journey into the present moment. It's just a journey into reality. It's a sinking feeling where you feel like you're pushing into reality. And that is the description when people talk about spiritual awakenings and, all of this type of stuff. Awakening is the feeling, like, that's the thing with so much of these words around mindfulness and meditation, is that they're not explained. It just sounds so cliche. So I had a spiritual awakening. Oh, I had an awakening one day. Oh, come to my shop, my 2-day retreat where I'll teach you how to achieve success, and you can have this awakening. And a lot of these awakenings is just people developing a new story in their head. An awakening is the feeling you get when your inner world dissolves. That is the feeling of that is the experience. The experience of your internal world coming to an end and you living in the present moment and living in reality is awakening. You're awakening up out of your drama, out of your bullshit, out of your mental health conditions, whatever it is. You're waking up out of the story that you're telling yourself, and you're living in the here and now. You're free. You're completely free from your mind. All right? That is what it means to be awake. All right? Like in Buddhism, the story of Siddhartha Gautama, all right, was someone that was deeply troubled and disturbed. And he went on a spiritual journey to free himself from his misery, his discontent, his unhappiness. I'm sure he was dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety and trauma, all right, and trying to understand life. And then awakening out of that, all right, out of that story, out of all of that, and then becoming the one who was awakened, the one who is awake. The word Buddha means the one who is awake. Now, people think, when you think about Buddhism and you think about all of this type of stuff, that, hey, to be enlightened means that you're on this higher plane and you're on this whole new realm and other people don't exist there. That's not true. To be enlightened, to truly be wise, is to understand that you're just a human being. There's nothing really that special about you. And just to realize that you're just living this life, and life is just happening, and you're just a part of the fabric of reality. That's what it means. It's not about being way up here and you're freaking like these people, and a lot of times, that's the thing. When people are looking for the type of peace and happiness that one gets from living mindfully, from becoming enlightened, is not a ecstasy. It is a peaceful, pleasant state of equanimity. Okay, equanimity. That is what one achieves. Equanimity. Balance in the mind. It's not like, oh wow, like I'm just happy all of the time. No, it means that you have a state of equanimity. In other words, you're just a very down-to-earth person. You're very balanced. You see things as they are. You see things as they are because you are in the present moment. And many people are not. And so because many people are lost in their own drama, they are subjected to a lot of negative emotions and false ideologies and ways of seeing the world that are inaccurate. And so I hope this video really breaks down what mindfulness is, some keys on how to practice it, bringing it into your daily life, stringing these moments across, living mindfully, and then developing the ability to then continuing the journey into the present moment and reaching a state of enlightenment. And when I mean enlightenment, not meaning woe is me, I'm Buddha. No, being a place of equanimity, a place of peace and contentment beyond your psychological drama and problems. So I hope this video finds you well. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Bodhi Tree Mental Health. Peace.